Welcome to the Dream Mentorship Podcast, where we interview everyday women making a difference in their lives and communities. From doctors to stay-at-home mamas, CEOs who work hard with no drama. This is where you come to dream and be inspired. Because at Dream Mentorship, we believe that every dream is valid. Here's our host and founder, Mac Jane Creighton.
Everybody, welcome to today's podcast. Of course, you know I'm your girl, Mac Jane Creighton, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing a phenomenal woman, and you know why in just a minute once we get to learn more about her story. She has such inspiring story to share with all of us today, and we couldn't wait to share with you all. She is a mom and a wife, and she is fantastic. She's an author, and she's written poems, Dear Son, which we're going to talk to her a little bit more about. And of course, she's also had tons of experience with sharing more about gardening and the benefits of that. So we're going to ask her all about that in just a minute. So would you join me on welcome to today's podcast, Tinita Tennant. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So we just want to give people a little bit of background about your story and how how everything started. Can you tell us how, just a little bit of background of, where you are, or where you went to school and things like that, and how that journey got you to where you are currently. I know that you're a military family, so so I'm sure that has a lot of influence to do also with some of the things that you are doing currently. So would you care to share that with us?
Yes, of course. So, well, I'll go back to when I was 7 years old, about 7 years old. That's when I knew first that I was going to write stories, right? I just knew that I wanted to create these stories. I had a big imagination. Teachers always complimented my big imagination and my ability to really bring imagery to my words. And I just knew I wanted to be a writer, but as life would have it, society would give us these messages that, being a writer or a painter or whatever, you have to be a starving artist. It's not really lucrative. It's not a true career path. And so I decided to study journalism, which that to me seemed like the closest way to still be a writer and tell stories, and to have quote unquote a title that would be respected and earn a decent wage, right? So that's what I did. I went to Penn State University for undergrad, and then I was working in corporate America, not even in journalism, because I graduated December 2006. I graduated actually a semester early from Penn State. So around 2007, when I was really in that job search, we were still dealing with, recession stuff. So I did different little temp agency jobs until I got my corporate job, not even in my field. But so I was working that, and then military life happened. My husband was in the Air Force, and they decided it was time for the Tennants to move to Oklahoma. The middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. So we moved there. It was a big culture shock. I had written a poem back in, I don't know, it was probably like, I don't even know. I'm not going to try to guess the year, but I had written this poem before 2014. That's before we moved to Oklahoma. And I knew I wanted to turn the poem into a children's book. That was Dear Son. And I had my friend draw these pictures, but we didn't know what to do with the pictures after that. We didn't know how to make it digital. So I just sat on it because we had this move. So it's easy to kind of forget because you get caught up in the day-to-day hustle. So it sat there. We were in Oklahoma. I, had my two sons at that time, and I was transitioning. I started working at a newspaper, a small town newspaper, as a community reporter. And that to me was the perfect time to get my master's degree, because I was lost. Like I was lost in this military life, trying to find my footing. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to school. Got a degree in new media journalism. The newspaper was making some changes, so I resigned after I got my degree. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna bet on myself now. I'm gonna try this freelance stuff out. And so I did. And then I was, trying to navigate that and got pregnant with my daughter. And a week after my daughter was born, tragedy struck my family. And my brother passed away at only 26 years old. And, grief will really put things in perspective for you. And I remember we moved from Oklahoma to Missouri, just right after my birthday. And I remember this gut feeling like, go back to that book you wrote. And I told myself, my brother lived a full life for just 26 years. He just went after things. Like, he didn't think twice about it. He just did stuff. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'll figure this out. And I did. After I figured that out, I knew I was onto something. I knew that my dreams were possible. I knew I no longer had to chase traditional publishing. There was a new world open to me. And I jumped straight in. I to my third. That's kind of how I got from 7-year-old dream to now at 35, I'm really living it.
Awesome. I love that. And I love the fact that you brought up the fact that seeing that your dream was possible. And I love the fact that you're already living it, which is still pretty young to say, oh, I'm living my dream, which is for a lot of people, that's not something that they can confidently say. A lot of people are still trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And for you to be able to get to that point and say, you know what, my dream is possible, even though it happened, the inspiration happened through a tragedy. And I know that you're a mom. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? How do you balance life? As an everyday woman who's probably listening or watching this interview and thinking like, yeah, it's easy for you to do that, or maybe because you had access to resources or stuff like that, and they're thinking, well, I don't think I can do it. What would you say to them? How were you able to go from, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have all these different things that I do, I'm still able to, go pursue my dreams?
Okay, so first of all, let me let you know, I'm still figuring that out, okay? There was no extra resources for me. We are military, we don't have family. Right as we're doing this interview, I'm looking at my daughter on her iPad with headphones on. So I just really had to make a decision and say, I'm gonna make it work how I can. So if it's waking up early before the kids, so I have to stay up late sometimes. This year we did put my daughter in half day pre-K, like around November. But school just ended for her. So it was not like she was in school a full year, but we did that so that I could have a little bit more time. But really, it's about making a decision. If you want it, you will find time, even if just 5 minutes a day, because sometimes that would be all I had was like 5 minutes, because my boys are in sports. And, I had a little baby that was at home with me all the time. So I don't know if there's true balance, because there's something that's always going to be kind of not tended to. But I think it's about making a decision. I have to make a decision every day. What's going to get most of my attention today? Am I going to work on the podcast today? Or am I going to be sending out emails, pitching my book today? I just have to make a decision.
Okay. I love that you said that too, because I'm a mom, and I know, and we've gone through the half day pre-K season as well. So I totally get it. I can relate. You're talking. I'm like, yeah, I get it totally. My question to you is, in all of that balancing life or pursuing your dreams, now you're an author, and I'm going to get to your book in a minute. But were there any women in your journey that were so inspirational, or that gave you that extra push to do what you do now, or even as a 7-year old that had all those wild imaginations of writing and stuff? Were there anybody who spoke life over you and say, hey, go for your dream, go do it? Were there any mentors? Who would you pick as a role model, or someone who was that instrumental in your journey?
Well, okay, so for me, I didn't really have any. Um, so my inspiration for writing did come from my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, Christine Powell, and she just recently passed away 2 summers ago. But so my inspiration came from her because she had all these books around the house. She had tons of books. She was an avid reader. That's when I learned about Essence and Ebony magazine. Um, I'm sorry, my daughter is Tori. And it worked, right? But honestly, I saw her books. I was introduced to Essence and Ebony magazine because I would see them around the house, and I would see these Black women on these magazines, and I was like, ooh, there's something about these words. And I knew that I liked words and creating stories. So that inspired me to want to write. I wanted to have articles in these magazines one day. Oh my goodness, could I have a book? That's kind of how I thought as a child. But nobody in my family really saw that. Like I didn't, there was, or really lived that. I didn't see anybody in my family that was doing that or really knew entrepreneurs or artists. So as I got older, and we got into the age of social media, that's when I began to find more inspiration and quote unquote mentors. I believe that you can have mentorship from people that you don't know. I began to be inspired by other writers, like Lovey Ajayi Jones. I love her podcast. I love her writing, and I would listen to her story. And so I would research her and just soak up what I could from her. And that was mentorship for me, without having one-on-one conversations, purchasing her books. Christine Platt, she is an amazing writer, and she just got like her first big book deal. But I've watched her journey. Now, I did have the pleasure of, having some exchange, and she poured into me. And I actually have the letter that she sent me above my desk, just reminding me to keep at it and to keep honing my skills, keep getting better. She recommended books. Books are mentorship. If you don't have access to a physical mentor, books are mentorship. And she recommended some books that I purchased, and some that she gifted me. So that's kind of where I found my mentorship. But now that I'm more into it, I am connecting with other women who's on the same path, and we're kind of pouring into one another. So maybe this is not the typical answer, but I would encourage anyone, if you feel like there's no one in your circle or reach to mentor you, find books, find women online that are doing what you want to do, that's successful in that. The tool you down and check it out and ship that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Mentorship, it doesn't only happen with family or people that we know already. It can happen in various forms, and you correctly highlighted all of the different ways that women can, or anybody in general, can get mentored, and not having that excuse of saying, oh, I never had a role model, I never had someone to teach me how to do this. And that kind of brings me back to your book. Your book talks about self-confidence for the Black and brown little girls and boys. Talk more about that, and where can people also get your book if they're interested in getting those for their kids?
Okay, well, actually, I have to say, I can tell you about those books, but Dear Son and Dear Daughter are no longer going to be on the market. I have established my own publishing company now, McKinley Ray Books, and I will be republishing those titles. So we are taking those off the market. Actually, this is one of those things that you learn and grow. The saddle stitch books will no longer, Amazon will not sell those books anymore. So that actually gave me a nice push to really level up and redo those books and make them even better. But in establishing my publishing company, we released our debut title, Tori the Great Discovers Her Superpower. And that was written with my daughter. And all those books do have a similar message. We want to inspire and uplift children, especially brown boys and girls. We want them to be able to see themselves reflected on the pages. We want the story to mirror their experiences. So all of my books will always have that layer to it. So Dear Son and Dear Daughter, they will be coming back. But the premise for those books was to really speak and affirm their greatness and their skin and just who they are. And so does Tori the Great. That is exactly what we do in that book. It follows her journey of getting glasses, but you see her family reaffirm her greatness and help her to remember that she's great just as she is. So that's kind of the messaging that I always want to be in my books.
Wow. First of all, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Publishing company, that is a huge, huge milestone. And I'm excited also to get your book for my daughter. So I want to see that. That's amazing. But I know you said currently you are transitioning. But is it possible for people who are also interested to get the one that is your debut right now?
Yes. Well, I did have it next to me, but yes. Tori the Great Discovers Her Superpower is on Amazon, Target, Barnes and Nobles. It's multiple places. It's out. I'm really excited because we actually hit #1 new release on Amazon. So that was exciting for us. And we've had television debuts. We've had a lot going on with this book. So it's out there, it's available, and there's more to come.
Yes, that's exciting. That's what we're talking about. Women winning.
Yes.
That's great. Congratulations. Talking about all this great stuff that you are doing, and I'm sure you have a support system that helps. How do you find the time to garden, or how does that even tie into all of the stuff that you're doing?
Okay, let me tell y'all, the garden, that is like my sacred place. It was actually for my husband's birthday a couple years ago. We had kind of talked about maybe trying to grow some things, and we had tried a few things here and there in Oklahoma, but we didn't stick to it. But we talked about it more and more. So a few years ago for his birthday, I came home with all the stuff to garden. And I was like, come on, we starting our garden. And I think that was one of the best things we could have done for our family, because we all got out there, we learned together, we watched these things grow. And I began to see stages and seasons of our life reflected in the garden. So, just watching things grow, having to tend to the soil, just learning about how healing the soil is. Also, if you think about where we come from and our ancestors and how they were able to take care of themselves. They had to grow everything that they ate. And so there's a lot of power in gardening. And that helps me ground. And, I have lived with, mental health issues like depression and anxiety. Being in the garden helps calm me. It's a place where I can just release. So yeah, gardening, I love it. I'm a big advocate for people trying. I'm always trying to tell people, just at least try herb gardening. People don't think they have a green thumb. I never knew that I could do this, but honey, I love it. I love gardening.
I'm glad that you're encouraging people like me who are scared. I mean, I keep thinking about it. I'm like, I kill every plant that I've tried. But I did have a farm when I was younger, and I was able to grow some corn and black eyed stuff like that. So definitely on my list of things that I want to go back to doing. I enjoyed doing that. Kind of shifting gears a little bit, and just talking about life in general. One of the top questions, believe it, that we get all the time is people saying, how do I publish my book? I have this idea, I want to be an author. What's the process like, and all of that. What advice would you give to someone listening who is, who has a book inside of them, or who's written stuff? Like with me, my first book, I actually wrote that, like you say, you write stuff and you never publish it. You have those excuses. My first book was written years and years ago, and it was until a summer when I was home for the holidays, my mom picked up the book and my sisters picked up the book, and they started reading it, and they're like, this stuff is really good, you need to publish it. And thankfully I had a family that were pushing me and say, publish it, and then that was how that book got published. But there might be people who don't have people pushing them, so I want us to be that push for them today and say, hey, go get it, you get it published. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say, if you haven't written the story, but you want to or think you might want to, I would say write. Just write. Every day, write a little bit. Get it out. And then I would say you need to be following me on Instagram at Tinita Tennant. And we are rolling out our publishing company's Instagram page, but I am going to be releasing free information. I'm going to be going through that whole publishing process, because I do want to help other people, and especially women and women of color, to own it, to do it themselves and not feel like they have to chase the traditional route. But definitely write, and we get attached to our writing. But editing is important also. So write the story, get it all out, do your own editing, but then get a professional editor. That's what I would say you need to start first. And get out your own head. Don't compare yourself. And a tip that I always give people, and some people don't even realize it, whatever you're writing, you need to read books in that genre. If you want to write a children's book, if you don't have children, or if you do, you need to be reading all of their children's books, because especially with children's books, you have a certain amount of words you need the story to be in. So you want to learn how to tell my story and keep it tight. So definitely you need to be reading in your genre. Don't compare yourself to the authors, but just understanding how to compose a clear story for whatever level you're writing it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And comparison kills a lot of dreams. A lot of people are constantly comparing themselves with other people and like, well, I can never be with this person. But you all make sure you follow Tinita on social media, and so you can get some more tips and possibly even get published by her publishing house. So we would love that. And on a final note, even as we kind of wrap up this has been really cool. It's been really fun getting to know you. I know we have talked about what your dreams are, and we have also talked about offline. We have talked about your
Mhm.
ideal statement, what you're passionate about. Um,
Mhm.
using that as leverage or as background, what would you say to any woman in general who is afraid to go for their dreams, whatever that is? It doesn't even have to be publishing or book. It can be anything. It
Mhm.
can be being a mom. And you also mentioned some really potent stuff about going through anxiety and depression and finding your eats, finding where you can go that is your sacred place. And just kind of tying all of that in, what would you say to that woman who is right now listening and feeling like, oh, I just can't. This is not me. This is not going to happen.
What I would say is you don't have to be fearless. I don't believe in fearless. Make the decision to do it with all your fear. Bring it on the journey with you. And like I said before, find women, even if it's on social media, that is doing what you want to do. And when you see what they're doing, it's not to compare or to copy, but remind yourself they had to go on a journey to get there. So it is possible. Your journey may look different, but those women are a reminder to you that it is possible. So I would say one step at a time, whatever you want to do, tell your fear, we're going on this journey, hop in the luggage and bring it with you. Because we really only get this one life. And I heard somewhere someone say that I guess like the richest place is like the cemetery, because that's where a lot of people's dreams end up. You know, there's a lot of $1 million ideas and stuff that people take to the grave with them because they didn't find it in themselves to pursue it. So just do it. Just do it, even if it's not great in the beginning. Because honestly, my first 2 books, I am eager to republish those books. But I had to do it. I had to start from somewhere. And so I'm still proud of those books that I did it. And now I'm in a position where I can continue to level up. So whatever your thing is, you know, even with being a mom, take it one day at a time. Take it one day at a time, give yourself grace and just go for it. Like, do the best you can with what you have. I think that's the best advice I could give someone.
Absolutely. I love it. Do it afraid. So you don't have to worry about all the different things like, oh, I don't need my fear. I have to be bold and fearless. No, do it afraid. Just make sure you get it done. Thank you so much, Tinita, for joining us on today's podcast. Really enlightening hearing your story, and we are wishing you all the very best even as you grow and continue on this journey.
Thank you so much for having me. It was definitely a joy. I enjoyed myself.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening to today's podcast. We hope that you absolutely enjoyed it. And we just want to go ahead and let you know that you are welcome to be a part of the Dream Mentorship community. You can volunteer, you can donate financially if you would like, or ask us any way that you would like to be involved in the work that we do here at Dream Mentorship. Until next time, I remain your host, Mac Jane Creighton. Do have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you for listening and going on a captivating journey of inspiration with us. If you'd like to learn more about Dream Mentorship and become part of the Dream Mentorship family, follow us on Instagram @Dream Mentorship or visit our website, dreammentorship.org. Feel free to send us a message and tell us what you loved about this podcast and our wonderful guest. This episode was edited by me, Evelyn Calvo. No matter what your dream is, we can help you make it a reality. And the first step is learning from other women living their authentic dreams. So come back next week for another episode.